Welcome everyone back to Pommy and Oz. Hope you're all doing really well. If you're new around here, hit that like button and hit subscribe. It really does help the channel out. A load of new members and subscribers have joined, so welcome to you. Can't thank you enough for the support and the love you've shown me in this off-season. And we're here today to talk about Crocodile Dundee. Nick Austin has done what is an amazing trade to get pick 3. So we're going to talk about the whats, the ifs, the whys. I always think that's important, so this might be long-winded. I apologise for that, but this has been a real heavily contested off-season where everyone is got an opinion, everyone's moaning, everyone's happy, everyone's sad. So I thought, let's go into it. So, firstly, let's digest what that trade looked like. So that trade looked like this, right? So on your screen now, you'll see it. So Carlton gave up Matty Owies, pick 12, pick 14, and pick 73. That works out at 2,776 points. If you want a real-life figure, that's somewhere between pick 2 and 1. So it's kind of like 2 and a bit. If you want an exact figure, it's roughly pick 2, right? And pick 55, right? So that's a good indication. Richmond gave up Liam Baker, which is roughly, we say, 803 points. We're valuing him this year at about pick 23. They obviously value him more, but that's fair enough. Eagles gave up pick 3, 63, and 68, which is 2,005 value. Again, that's 3 and a bit change. So if you want, well, obviously it's pick 3, 63, and 59. That's 171 extra. So that's roughly pick 58 and pick 3 if you want real money. Of that, Carlton received 3, 64, 3, and 68, giving them the points for the Camparellis. So the Blues now have 239 in loose change, if you want it that way. A bit of loose change. And that roughly covers Carlton on a bid of pick 40 to 39 for Ben Camparelli. So it makes sense why the Blues have done that. The Blues gave pick 14 to Richmond, which is 1161, which showing you how much they value Mr. Baker. And then the Eagles got Liam Baker, Mathew Owies 12 and 73, which is no points, which is roughly 2,418 points. So when you actually break them down, Eagles win that by 13, which is, it's not real. It's basically pick 72 that they gained from what they didn't have. So that's a peculiar trade. Obviously, they're putting a lot of faith into Liam Baker and they're valuing him, Liam Baker, at that 1161. If you actually value him at that 1161, they've done pretty well. It's 371. I don't quite buy that. That's just me personally. And I think we've overvalued Matty Owies, in my opinion, at 347 points. I would value him less, but that is roughly pick 45. But that's a funny trade for the Eagles. Now, we've talked about the Eagles. They need volume, right? Are they getting volume with 12 Liam Baker and Matty Owies? Liam Baker makes them instantly better. Matty Owies gives them some good coverage. I'm going to be totally honest. If Carlton were Eagles, this video would be a lot different. I'd probably be smashing up this area behind me and then getting divorced because my wife would be like, how much money have you spent on this? You've just smashed it up. So I don't like that deal for the Eagles, to be honest. Like I feel like Nick Austin needs to do a press conference with a Ned Kelly mask the next time I see him. Richmond, 14 for Liam Baker is an absolute result for me. Absolute result for me. And then the Blues. The Blues technically have lost Matty Owies in this deal and gained pick 3 and the Ben Camparellis. I really like this deal for the Blues. And I'll tell you for why. So we've covered what the trade is. We understand that. We understand now that Ben Camparelli is locked. And remember the debt, it'll be in the second round. If the debt's in the second round, the Blues really benefit because that 12 will become a pick, their third round pick, which will be like 1. So they won't even move a spot. So that's really interesting for the Blues. Good bit of business there, right? Why have Carlton done it? Why do Carlton want pick 3? Well, 3 for 3. Let's go through them, right? And the first guy you're going to see on your screen here is a guy that we have been linked with quite a bit. And that's Finn O'Sullivan. And Finn is a very, very interesting cat. Now, if you want to watch these games, I really do implore you to do what I spent hours doing. And that's mixing up getting down there, but also mixing up watching the full game replays. Now, if you go to afl.com.au/on-demand, you will find a section there called the Coates League Boys Replays. And they have the full replays of all the games. So there is some really, really good games that you can go and see there. And what we'll try and do is we'll try and link you to these players as we talk about them. So what I'm going to do now is just bring up my iPad and talk to you about these players. So Finn O'Sullivan, what do we know about him? Oakley Chargers boy, midfielder, Sam Walsh's cousin, which makes it exciting. I want you to know that just because he's his cousin doesn't mean he's a lock to pick there. It's really important. I said this about SDK. I said this about Dan Houston. List managers couldn't give less of a shite about who they know. But if you do want to check out Finn Sullivan's games, he obviously has had horrific hand and thumb injuries this year. He was a clear standout pick 1. If you remember the content we were doing last year, it was absolutely huge. And if you go and watch the Rebels prelim, you'll probably see the best of Finn O'Sullivan. But Finn O'Sullivan was the clear standout pick 1. These injuries have curtailed him, right? They really have curtailed him. But just shows his ability with having broken fingers and thumbs, how he's managed to stay in the mix for the top 3. You are looking at a guy that has very good IQ off the ball. If you actually look, even though he wasn't match fit when he came back, he really showcased that. And his numbers for Oakley Chargers this year, albeit from a small amount of games, are 17.3 disposals, 4 marks, 3.5 tackles, 0.8 rebound 50s, 5.3 inside 50s, and 1.3 goals a game. And what this guy has got is he ran a sub-3 time sprint, which is absolutely ridiculous. That means that you're like Flipper. You're faster than lightning. But he's got huge impact. He's got real big penetration when he goes inside there. But he's also got that wonderful ability to really make things happen out of nothing. Now, when we talk about Carlton, if you go back to the off-season when we did the video on Christian Petrarca, we talked about Carlton's recruitment quite recently. And what was that we deduced? We said that Carlton don't have any points of difference in that type of in that area, right? Which is really, really interesting, I think, right? That we didn't have it didn't have that. It really didn't have it. And when people say Carlton haven't drafted for that, I think that's really unfair, right? Really unfair. And the reason I say it's really unfair is they did. They targeted SPS, they targeted Fisher, they targeted Dow, they targeted the points of difference, and they just never worked out. And when you look at Carlton's midfield, and this is why I was so against Dan Houston, what do I always say in reviews? Our midfield is Control-C, Control-V. It's almost like we just copied and pasted the same player. You've got Adam Cherry there who's slightly different. His defensive mindset around stoppage is very rare to find in a midfielder. He naturally finds and oscillates towards them defensive zones. Sam Walsh is the ball accumulator. All great midfielders have it. And then you've got Cripps. Few midfielders have Cripps' ability to extract the ball. And then you've got Mr. Defence himself, Rodri as we call him, George Hewitt. But when you've looked out and come up against really good midfields, they lack what they've been trying to buy. They lack that goal kicker, they lack that spreader, they lack that burst player, they lack that explosiveness in there. And it's no surprise in this draft, this is the year you go, because the 3 guys we're going to talk about. Now, if you want to go and watch the VFL, there is a game where he played for Richmond, Finn O'Sullivan, and he absolutely took the piss at half forward. 2 massive goals, but also was involved in just about everything from his 12 touches and limited minutes. And when he's gone to Vic Country, there's a few games you can watch there. Again, same website. Go on the AFL this time, go into fixtures, go into click the State League, and go and just click Vic Country, and you'll find the video replays in there. 11.5 disposals, 1.5 marks, 3.5 tackles, and 3 inside 50s. And what Finn brings is that agility, he brings that ability to weave in traffic, but Don't make that misconception that the media are trying to do, that Sam Walsh is a clone of Finn O'Sullivan. Just because they're cousins, I can't... Please be like pomming this, and relations in your family means sweet diddly squat. Nathan Ablett ain't Gary Ablett, right? So, look at this. But what Carlton are acquiring here, in my opinion, is whichever of the three we talk about, it's going to be like, what if Paddy Dow was good? What if Zach Fisher was good? What if SPS was good? You mould them all together and it worked. And the great thing about Finn is he's probably the safest out of these three because he can play outside, he can play inside, he's got a huge vertical leap. Him learning that marking, intercepting from Blake Acres does turn me on. That ability to find the ball from Sam Walsh, that ability to extract, that ability to go forward and kick goals. Finn O'Sullivan, if he stays fit, which we've got to assume he does, these are fractures. So fractures are pretty healable, that he goes on. And he's a real good player. And as you can see here, winning the MVP last year, he was the clear standout. The clear standout pick one. So this is a real intriguing one because this is someone that we're talking about who could have been pick one had he not got them injuries. And he's a very solid player. Very well-rounded. Not many weaknesses. When you look at him, probably some of the areas are probably trying to get more involved would be my gut feel, particularly when he came back. I know he wasn't match fit, but definitely trying to find himself getting involved when the ball isn't going one way. That two-way running. In the state championships, particularly no rebound 50s, very limited rebound 50s for Ugly Chargers. Has to get on that defensive side, but I will say that Carlton's midfield is copied and pasted. So we have so many defensive midfielders, right? So Finn O'Sullivan is definitely in this conversation. There is no doubt about it. At that wonderful size, 182, he's got it all, and he is a ready-made player, which all these players are. Up next is GMV boy and a guy that we've talked about a lot on this show, Sam Lalor. And he has that penetration, but he also has that kind of, that view set of when you get excited. He's it's big-bodied, it's strong. He's kind of, I don't want to say it, but it is kind of like how you'd imagine what, if you built what Carlton lack, it's probably 2017 Dusty, isn't it? Well, you can see that in Sam. And I don't want to put too much pressure on the Geelong Grammar boy, but this guy is strong, he's quick, he is incredibly tough, aerially supreme, and he's got that break speed that just bursts from stoppage. And he's got like Dow traits in the terms of what attracted to us when we took pick 3. He dominates when he plays. Now, he's another guy that has had that injuries. He had some hips and some quad issues at the start of the year, but he has come in and he's taken the mick. And his ability to slide forward always attracts me. And the thought of having Elijah with another year in him and Sam Lalor really excites me. At GMV this year, 23 touches, 5.8 marks, 3 tackles, 2.3 rebound 50s, 6 inside 50s, and 0.3 goals a game. Really worth going to check out and watch because this guy is a beast. If you want to go and watch a game, go and watch the Allies game again on the AFL website, where this year for Vic Country he averaged 11 touches, 5 marks, 4 tackles, no rebound 50s, 2 inside 50s, 1.3. Was played predominantly at half forward, pinch hitting in the midfield, which is probably a good indication of what he'd do year one. Sam loves the X factor, and probably his decision making at times is probably the thing that holds him back in seniors. But having said that, he has got incredible midfielders now to protect him. And this is kind of like whoever's coming in here is Patrick Cripps when we had Judd. They've got the experience around them. It's about time to blossom and flap your wings. And that Allies game really shows what happens when the midfield controls it, how Sam is that je ne sais quoi, that a compliment. Carlton lack a goal-kicking mid. That Petrarca video came from the heart of where I went into that video and didn't want to trade Harry Mackay. However, when I did the data points, I could see why a midfield is so important. And when you go back and see the games Carlton lost badly, Hawthorn and Sydney, their ability to really just have to break even with Carlton around stoppage and then spread them with that ability for someone just to break the line, get the ball inside 50 quick, and kick goals is so, so imperative. You're looking at Chad Warner, you're looking at Marcus Bontempelli, them players that just come in and make something happen. Lockie Neal is that great component. But remember Richmond in 2017, and I always say this, their stoppage game was one of the things that people used to complain about. The Donomans. Dustin Martin's ability to say, right, you're pissing about too much and I'll just make it happen. Sam Lalor is him, right? Sam Lalor is that man. And he is a guy that I am really, really keen on. 187, he's a behemoth. He's a big guy, mid-forward. Definitely that POD, Carlton lack. And looking at that midfield, I don't see, honestly, the heart of hearts, end of season, no one said to me that they were looking for a halfback. They were looking for something to bring us into that stratosphere. And this here is really Nick Austin saying, I can find key position depth. I can find a small forward. They all come late 40s anyway. Can I find that POD without buying one? And this is the crack, and it's very bold. And Sam Lalor is that guy. And then we finish with a guy. So Finn O'Sullivan, we talked about, played a spot of VFL, right? We talked about Sam Lalor, right, who is incredibly impactful. A guy that can just really make it happen. A guy that idolises Dustin Martin and bases his model. Then there's a guy that no one's talking about, right? And I've talked about him all year. My jewel in the crown. Now, I want to caveat this, and I don't want you all to get excited. But if you go back to Oakley Chargers 2 years ago, there was a guy called Nick Dacos. And I made that reference that it was like the first time I heard the Beatles. And what I mean by that is, I don't play on gut. A lot of research goes in this. A lot of people will sit there with darts and durries and have gut feelings about players. I don't believe in that. Knowing a lot of scouts who are in the Premier League now and stuff in the UK, who I grew up with, recruitment guys in there, one thing I've learned from them, and it helped me in my career, was never go with gut unless you can back gut up. Gut's great if you're a nana. In reality, though, there is always more to it. But there is two players that do stand out for me that I have covered in the years of doing this that give me butterflies. Nick Dacos is one, Sam Draper is the other. And we talked about him a lot last year. We've talked about him way too much this year. This is a guy that has played for the Panthers this year, who are a very poor side, and he's played senior football, right? He's played 9 total career games, 6 this year in Sandford, playing against men. 182, and his numbers for the Sandford team, 22.2 touches, 2.2 marks, 6.2 tackles, 0.3 rebound 50s, 3.7, 0.3 goals a game, which is really impressive. Playing in some massive losses as well. Really impacting. You can go back and watch this on the Sandford.com, but games against Sturt and North Melbourne where they got battered, this guy was literally there, in and around the clutches, taking it on the chin, playing like an adult against men. For the State League this year, obviously you're looking at a guy that did take out the MVP. 21 touches, 2.8 marks, 1.3 tackles, 1.8 rebound 50s, 3.3 inside 50s. And what are you getting from Sid Draper? You are getting a player, in my opinion, that is the modern day prototype player. We always talk about players and they are underrated, but this guy is quick, hard-working defensively and forward. He has strong ability in the clutches, and he has X-factor moments. There's still them kind of little grey areas, you know, as all these young players have, on that kind of that, what will it end up with? Because it is A1 mentality. He does love the handball in the air. Sometimes he makes some mistakes. But everything he lacks, Carlton have in abundance. That positioning around defensive stoppage, that positioning around defensive sets. But he works incredibly hard. A man that really does mirror them games on all them South Australians that have come through the system. And this guy here is someone that can really make a difference for the Blues. In my opinion, year one, he suits that personality of the players. He's a former leader. He comes in. He's worked with the Camporellis. You go and watch a lot of the Camporelli highlights. Drapes is the guy that's been feeding them. And his ability to run both ways and his ability to enact shouldn't be understated and probably the least talked about here. But for me, this is who I'm banking on. I'm looking at Sid and going, okay, I have to trust the gut. And that's very rare from me. I don't often trust the gut, and that gut's getting bigger. I need to do something about that. But the data backs up with what the eye says. I always say the eye lie, numbers don't lie when they're mirrored together. They're the happy sisters, right? There's something about Draper, but all three of these players are different types of players that the Blues have. So go out there and do some research. It's really important that you watch the full game, and it's really easy. The way that the camera angles are set up now, you can really watch these players on and off the ball. And this is it for the Blues. They've got to get something that changes their game style, that gives them a point of entry. And at the moment, they're working very hard. These three players free up Walsh, free up Cripps, because then they can just do what they do really well, and they've got them PODs. This is an incredible, incredible acquisition that hasn't really come at too much of a greater cost when you look at it in the long scheme of things. And this is something that the Blues have now targeted. Credit to Nick Austin, credit to everyone else. Thank you very much for watching. Peace, love, and light. I'll see you tonight. Got a bumper stream as well on Wednesday.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella